But I would start a class, halfway through that class, I'd start another class, I'd finish the second one, the first one, be halfway through the second, start another class. So I was doing two classes the whole time on my master's degree. So it's not, I mean, if you know how to plan your days and do things, and I was working
All right. Dirty today. It's gonna be down and dirty today. All right, how's everybody doing?
Wow.
Good?
Well,
What?
I
What happened?
I don't hear you said we have to dance something.
Dance?
No, we have to do what?
No, I said it's gonna be down and dirty today.
Oh, that was challenging.
No challenge, no challenge. This is my own personal thing. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Good? All right. Any questions about anything? Upcoming activities, past activities?
Week 6, the case study out of it, and then the team.
Yeah, so, come for the next iterations of the group, research discussion, I'm gonna put the groups together. Okay?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's much easier for me, all right? I thought, we could do it as adults and be okay, but I can't get in different submissions. Seems a little ridiculous. So, there's gonna be 2 groups. All right, there's that, maybe 3. No, 2's
Four,
good.
four.
2's good. All right, so I know I have at least 3, then you, Red, and who else?
Nima?
Nima, okay. And then I'll put everybody else in it. I more than likely will put. Let's see.
I think in 2 groups, there's too many people to handle, and based on everybody's schedule, it's difficult to combine.
Yeah.
Find ways to.
All right, we'll make it 3 groups then. And then split it down to like, maybe 3 people per group or something like that, or 4 people per group. Yeah, it should be 4 people per group. Okay?
11.
Yeah. I'm gonna have an extra. 3 groups and 2 or 4, one of whatever. 3. Okay? It'll be like that. Good? All right. As far as the research discussion for week 6 and the group, the case study, let me double check on that. I don't remember if they interchangeable, one for the other. I don't think so, but let me double check and see. There may not be a requirement to do it. I don't know. I have to check. Like I said, it's been a while since I set this course up. I need to go do it before to really find out what's what. All right, so I'll look at it tonight and then I'll let you know what the outcome is. All right?
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions? Anything pressing? No? I don't know, you look scared. Yeah, you may not be scared. You look scared. You look nervous.
No,
No?
I don't know.
All right. All right, right, this week, talking about street, workforce, planning, okay? So, of course, one of the things that Zoom, anybody? You're on Zoom too?
So me,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay,
I actually joined,
Okay.
I started Friday.
no worries. I just wanna make sure. So one of the key things about, HR, specifically in strategic HR is the actual workforce planning, right? So that's gonna be really the driving force behind what companies do. So, we've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks, right? Operations dictates, what direction we go in, all right? And then from there, we start strategizing about, okay, what do we need as far as skill sets within the workforce to make sure that we can accommodate and make sure we get to our goals, right? And so it's not just a matter of, hiring and firing people. It's a matter of like sitting down and really doing some in-depth analysis and understanding what is it that we really are aiming for, right? What timeline, right? And also, how much money do we have, which really what it boils down to, right? And based on that, are we a startup? Are we a company that's been around for a while? Are we facing some economic pressures or some, are out of our control that's gonna affect our, our ability to recruit and bring people in that we need, right? And at times, you'll have, companies try to focus on the leadership aspect of the company, right? The executive suite, CEO, COO, those folks, right? And not necessarily realize that, yes, those people are critical and important, but you really need to, look lower, right? Look a little more in depth at the lower level folk that you're bringing in, right? Because at the end of the day, the CEO's not doing anything, all right? CEO's not out there, putting up the reports. CEO is asking for certain things, the deliverables, and people around him or her are supporting them with the deliverables. But the CEO is not doing that. Neither the COO, neither the CFO,
You're CIO.
neither CIO, CTO. None of those folks are doing the actual execution of the work, right? And so when we get down to it, we really have to workforce plan these high level type skills or these high level type deliverables or agendas and try to make that translate into the skill set that we have at the bottom. Okay? And I'm just saying bottom just because, it's the bottom, not that they're at the bottom, right? So we have to learn how to translate, right? And so. All right. So there's one word, all right, there's one word that ties all three of these together. Person, place, and job. Anybody think of the word I'm thinking of as it relates to HR?
Strategy.
No, but that's a good one.
Company.
No,
Employee.
no. Ties all these words together.
Work.
Work.
Oh, no.
So think about it from an HR perspective, right? If I was doing my planning and I was okay, I have a certain amount of money and I got 4 positions to fill, right? What am I really trying to do?
Profit.
Profits, okay. But
Yeah.
don't go too deep on the HR. Like think of it from a broader scope, from a higher level, right? If you are CEO, you're not thinking about necessarily details. You're more broad brush, you're more general in perspective.
Is it asset?
No, it's not an asset. I guess it could be adjective. It could be adjective or verb.
Vacancy.
No. So you got the person, you got the place, and you got the job, right? In order to make them effective, right, and to have productivity and all that other stuff, productivity, efficiency, satisfaction, okay?
Optimization.
Right. And you're close. You're close, but not as fancy a word. Okay? All right. For a company to be successful, productive, efficient,
Direction, is that it?
it is a direction. It describes a direction.
Yeah, because they need a direction. You have people raise job, but they don't know what to do or where to lead.
Yeah, no, it's a simple thing, right? But it's the direction. It's a direction. Yes, come on in.
Yeah, if you have like 5.
Yeah. What's up, Jack? What's going on?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? Come on in.
Thank you. Hello, how are you?
I'm quiet, forget. You coming in class too? You coming in here, Karen?
No, yes, sir.
Okay, you wanna come in? Okay, all right. Okay.
If you have 5 people, and all of them are working, they're not synchronized, they don't know what to do, like, everybody's working on their own, but they need a direction, so.
Yeah, no, so maybe I'm not giving you the best clues, right? It,
Person,
it's not a little fortune. We're gonna be all right, okay? We're just gonna get to it, okay? So, companies, this is, a lot of times the aim, right? We gotta find the right person, right time, with the right job, okay? When you have to connect all those things together, that's really the crux of workforce planning, right? That's it. That was all. I was saying. It's a direction. Go right,
Oh.
left, up, down. Okay.
Oh.
I thought that would help, but that didn't help at all. Okay. So you have to have the right. You have to have the right pieces together. You have to have the right pieces. Okay. And all those pieces have to fit together. Right. If you have the right person but in the wrong job, okay, that's probably not going to work. That person is probably going to get bored or not be happy with their job and not satisfied. Right. You may have the wrong person in a good job, right? But in a bad place, all right? The work environment matters, right? It may be that the person came, like, so for right now, for instance, the gaming industry, right? Everybody's big into gaming, everybody's big into AI, but everyone's big into this stuff, right? But the gaming industry is going through a big layoff, right? But you would never know that per se, based on what's going on in the economy and the fact that gaming is really popular, right? So a lot of these folks, they're in the right jobs, the right place, just the wrong time, right? And so they're getting laid off, they're getting sent home, right? When the industry is supposed to be robust and supposed to be, really strong, and it's not, right? And so when it comes down to planning, what do you do with these folks where you know that it's down here right now, but it's going to go up, right? It's gonna get better, right? Especially in gaming industry, because it's just growing and getting better and better as time goes on, right? Understanding the nuance of, all right, this may not be the best time to hire people, or companies are doing things like, yes, we're hiring, but we just laid off such and such, or such and such left. We're not filling that position anymore, all right? Because we are redesigning the process. We're redesigning the job design, right? And saying, look, we can get someone to do this job and do something else, and we'll give them additional maybe $5,000 a year, right? Vice going out and bringing somebody on to pay them an extra 60, 70, $80,000, whatever the case may be, right? So we're looking at the workforce planning. It's really about the fit, right? Just like an interview. When you go to interview, you're not going in because they really want to know about your technical prowess. They don't really care, to tell you the truth. If you made it that far, they probably trust in your ability. Yes, there's going to be a test or something depending on the job, but for the most part, we're looking for a fit. We're looking to see if you fit, one, the organizational culture, two, do you fit the job, right? Not everyone has the temperament for every job, right? Sales jobs, right? Like I said, I used to be in sales for like a week, and I hated it because that's not my personality. I'm not that kind of person, right? But I have other friends who are in sales, and that's their personality. Now, on the other hand, I wouldn't put them in a hospital, right? Because they don't have that attitude. They don't, people in hospital are going through things, right? The last thing you need is a jerk at the hospital, right? Oh, my stomach hurts. Oh, you'll be all right. Hey, I'm bleeding. It's okay. I'm gonna sell you a Band-Aid. Okay, you'll be fine, right? You have to kind of recognize those things and weigh those things in contrast to have somebody who's talented, have somebody who, fits as far as timing, but their temperament doesn't fit. Okay, they're not the right person for the job because their attitude is just not going to work here, right? Not for this particular position. They may work someplace else or some other division or department, but this particular job is not going to work, right? And so those are the things that you have to take into workforce planning, but in a more general or aggregate type way, right? To say this is a block or a series of jobs, right? Sales, whatever block that is, 0200, right? The salespeople that I know, they're usually pretty talkative, pretty boisterous, very not arrogant, they're very confident, and they're more outgoing, right? Than the people that I know that are maybe, school teachers or something, or in education, right? Those are folks that are in education, they have a different temperament, different way of behaving. Not everyone can be a professor or teacher, or everyone can't do the same job. There's a reason why, me personally, I don't teach high school and middle school and elementary school. I don't have the patience.
Yes.
Right? I will smack somebody. I'll smack somebody's kid. Because I'm old school, like, look, you come to school, you wanna learn or don't? If you don't wanna learn, you can go, right? You can't do that with kids, right? You can't have that attitude. Now, with you guys, I can, right? Because you're paying to come to school. So if your temperament's not right, if your attitude's not right, like, just get out. Just leave, okay? But you're here because you want to be here, all right? And so for me, that makes my job easier. I can deal with that. My temperament is suited to that, all right? So if you have, that mindset when you're doing your workforce planning, you're gonna get a good fit for your workforce, okay? And that's what you really want, because they're gonna be the ones that really set the culture, they're gonna be the ones that set the standards, right? The guy or gal at the lowest, at the bottom is the person that is probably the most dangerous, okay? Because nobody thinks about them, they have access to all kinds of stuff, okay? And so they often get neglected, right? But people's personalities and people and how they work and if the job is good for them matters, right? So make sure you keep that in mind. All right? Nope. bad. Okay, so some key objectives here, right? First one is overstaffing and understaffing, right? So I've never been in an organization that's overstaffed in general. Okay, that's a rarity that you have an organization say, "Oh, we got too many people." No, that's usually not a thing, right? It's usually understaffed. Now you may have a department or a section that's a little bulky, and you're like, well, we got a few extra folks here that are redundant, that we could get rid of, but we're just gonna wait till it's their time and then we'll let them roll out, but we're not gonna fill the position again, all right? So when you're looking at workforce planning, you're definitely eyeing each department, each section, and saying, okay, what is the right amount of people that we need for this department? Okay, and then based on that, what is the budget that they have for payroll, right? And then can we alleviate some things, right? Can we move things around? Can we, redesign a few jobs so that people are getting more of more of an overall experience when it comes to cross training, that kind of thing. Like, hey, can I rotate people in that department to different jobs? Because that's really, especially as an HR person, you're gonna start off as a generalist, right? And then you're gonna check out a section. They're gonna rotate you. That's what they do in HR. They rotate you from compliance to hiring to recruiting to whatever else, HRIS, HR information systems. They'll rotate you around, and then you'll find your way, sort of like what you like to do and what your niche is. And again, are you a right fit for this particular job, right? If you're not detail orientated, I'm probably not going to put you into the information system portal or the compliance portal, right? Because those are very specific, detail orientated. You got to be really in the weeds with those kind of things, right? So I'm probably not going to be putting anybody in that I don't think fits the bill, right? So at the end of the day, we can start to, make staffs smaller, make staffs bigger. We don't have to necessarily fire anybody, right? We just reconfigure it, right? Make it look different. But one of the key things when you're doing workforce planning is to look at where you overstaff, where you're understaffed, and then from there, kind of make adjustments, right? Right place, right time, kind of talked about that already, okay? So this is more important than anything else to me, right? Right place, right time, right job. Right, you get that right, you're good to go, all right? But your organization is responsible to change in the environment, all right? So this, depending again, to me, is a function of size, right? The bigger the organization, the more likely you are to not really, be responsive to change, right? Not in the sense that the CEO or the leadership don't, they're not reactive or proactive, I should say, in seeing things coming down the road. It's just that the implementation of it is the hard part, okay? The CEO, those guys, they're always going to be trying to stay ahead of the game as far as environmental factors, any factors that matter, right? But now, if I say we're gonna do a shift, right? Just let's say a shift from working from the office, doing COVID, working remote, right? and now companies want people to come back to work. It's been a very slow transition back to work, okay? Almost to the point where people are rebelling, they don't want to come back to work, right? And companies are using the incentive of remote work, right, to hire the talent that they want and putting a dollar amount on remote work, okay? And saying, you know, this is worth this much in your compensation. So guess what? You get 85,000, but 5,000 of that is remote work, okay? So that counts in your compensation, right? So they start doing stuff like that. But the ship is not easy to change direction if it's a big ship, okay? Same thing with the workforce. It's gonna take time for the people underneath the leadership and the decision makers to really get on board and to make a shift, right? And while you're making this transition, other things are happening. It's not like the world stops, right? Things keep going on, right? And so while you're trying to get through this change, there's another change happening that you're gonna have to get through, okay? And so companies end up behind, right? If they don't stay proactive and try to figure out, okay, we need to plan out 5, 10 years, like we talked about last week, right? 3 to 5 years is short term, 5 to 10 years, 15 is long term, for the most part, right? And just come up with a plan that's going to sustain us and take us into the next couple of years, right? We don't want to be like the budget, right? The budget is just like the US budget, right? They still haven't finished that. They're still goofing off with that. Every year it's the same thing, right?
They haven't finished that in 25 years.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's ridiculous, all right? You can't come up with a budget. Every year is the same thing. And it's just a function of the way it works, right? But if they had a budget that they could lock down for the next 3 to 5 years, and we do every 5 years, we don't do it every, year, right? It goes quickly, right? So you have to you just can't do it and just forget about it. And just be like, okay, we'll tackle it in another 10 months. Like, yeah, I know you will tackle it in another 10 months, right?
I think is that why education and healthcare is expensive? Is there's improper budgeting?
Yeah, part of it. I mean, yeah,
There's a lot of debt.
Well,
national debt.
I don't know about if it's, yeah, I mean, debt is one thing. When it comes to medicine or healthcare, that's a whole different ballgame. It's so dynamic. There's so many factors in that, one being the pay that you have for, the doctors, right? If you have a doctor that's averaging, most of the doctors are averaging 250 a year, right? And that's just your kind of humdrum type doctors. Don't talk about a cardiac surgeon or, some brain surgeon.
Orthodontists, so
Yeah, my friend's a GI doctor. He makes $450,000 a year. Okay? So, those things, in addition to the cost, all right, in addition to pharmaceutical companies, in addition to a lot of things, go into that equation as far as healthcare goes. Education is a whole different ballgame. Education, I just think, is the desire not to want to contribute to education, right? It's kind
Spend
of,
more money on education with worse results than
Yeah.
virtually any other,
yeah.
any other first world country.
I think the most amount is spent on security.
Yeah, security, yeah, military,
Yeah,
defense.
yeah, defense.
Yeah, that's where the money's spent, right? Because we're United States and we like to present power. Be ready for whatever, you mess with us, you're gonna get a bullet, okay? You won't be able to take care of it, but you'll get a bullet, okay? So, that's just the way it goes, right? And then healthcare and education, at the end of the day, education specifically boils down to paying the teachers what they need to be paid, because teachers are basically raising kids, right? And so if a teacher has to go in their own pocket to, pay for supplies and stuff like that, it becomes a burden. It becomes hard, right? But if you're looking at workforce planning, if you're looking at workforce planning and trying to figure out how do I go about remedying some of these issues, right, with teachers, with the whole, so for instance, so California had this huge shortage of teachers, right? Specifically substitute teachers. And so what they did was they streamlined the process to be a substitute teacher. You went through this week-long course, they gave you a certificate or whatever license, and you were good for the next 2 or 3 years, right? Most states don't do that. Most states is like, you're a teacher, okay, there's a substitute pool, cool. Can you substitute? Are you willing to substitute? Yes, okay. And you go, you substitute, and you sit there, you get paid, and you go about your way. California, in light of, their shortage of teachers, they decided to do this program. Well, they got their numbers back up, and what did they decide to do? Well, now, we don't like the quality of the teachers that we have in the substitute pool, right? And so guess what? Now it's a 2-year program to be a substitute teacher, right? No one's going to go to a 2-year program to be a substitute teacher.
You get your teaching credentials in 2
To
years.
get your teaching credentials is one thing, but to be a substitute teacher, that doesn't make any sense. Okay? None whatsoever. And so when you're thinking about workforce planning, you're trying to think like, okay, how can I bulk up my teacher pool, right? My substitute teacher pool. That's never gonna happen. Right? Because the timeline is too long. Right? And that's the thing you have to think about. Like, how long is it gonna take me to grow a substitute teacher? It's at least 3 years, right? I got 2 years in the program. I got another year for just to get orientated to the whole substitute teacher thing, right? Depending on what grade or what level they're teaching at, there's another level anxiety and stress that goes with that, right? So it takes time to build somebody up to be a substitute teacher, right person, right place, right job, right temperament, all that stuff, right? And so that workforce planning, exponentially speaking, right, is terrible. You'll never, ever have a adequate substitute pool.
It's like a full-time job?
No, it's not. That's the thing. It's not a full-time job.
So like they just call you, come.
Yeah.
Yes.
extra?
Yeah, they'll call you. Now, it's consistent, but it's not full-time. Right? So they'll call them on a regular basis. They'll be hopping around in different schools. And sometimes you get a substitute teacher and they really like the person. They say, hey, can you stay permanent as a substitute teacher? And then they become that substitute teacher for that school or depend on the subject.
Kind of like cross-training, but not full-time.
Not full-time, yeah.
So you need to know so many subjects and how to interact. with
Well,
Just filling up positions for.
No.
Who probably.
You don't. Because usually substitute teachers, they're not gonna teach anything. They're just gonna sit there. They might do something. If they're familiar with the subject, if it's something that they teach, they may move on, and progress. But usually a substitute teacher comes in, gives the students some idle work, something just keep them busy, and then they go about their way. Okay, and then when the teacher comes back, they pick up where they left. Right? Most substitute teachers are not teaching anything. Right? So yeah, it doesn't make any
It's like
sense.
unnecessary position.
No, because teachers sometimes get sick, so
Yeah.
someone has to be in the classroom.
Somebody's gonna.
Substitute teachers fill the role of being in the
Yeah,
classroom.
but you don't have it, I don't have school work system here, like, like middle school and
Mhm.
high school. So it's not like the teacher has like some class available, or they teach the whole day. They don't have,
They teach the whole day, right? Teach the whole day.
they're not like, one, like.
No, there's usually no breaks in between. I mean,
Even in middle school, like I went to middle school and high school, I had 7 classes every day in middle school and high school. And I had a different teacher for every class.
yeah,
And in elementary school, I had 2 teachers. One taught the English and writing and reading, and the other one taught like math and social
Science,
studies
yeah.
and science and stuff like that. So,
no. But
somebody has to be in the classroom monitoring
Yeah,
it.
good question though, then. Cause I mean, if you look at the majority of issues, I think you had alluded to it. The amount of time it takes to do certain things. Workforce, right? In the workforce planning that companies do. Because they don't have the adequate staff, right? It's like a restaurant. You go to a restaurant and the manager has to figure out, okay, it's Wednesday night or Tuesday night, Tuesday night, right? Not many, right? And then boom, you get this rush. conventions in town, right? You do your homework to see what's going on. And you got two people as wait staff, you got one person in the kitchen, and that's that, all right? That's not gonna work, right? People are gonna walk in, they're gonna be like, hey, can I sit down? Like, yeah, you can, all right, and then they'll get water, and it'll be 30 minutes later, and they're like, well, I haven't seen a person, I haven't seen a soul. Well, that's because that person is handling 80 tables, and you're one of them, right? And so you can see that directly happening or affecting, commerce, and how that lack of planning as far as the workforce goes can have an effect on your business, right? Because if you don't have the appropriate amount of people it's better to be over than under in the service industry. Okay? No one wants to wait. All right, hotel, hospitality, restaurant. I don't want to wait. All right, so it's better to have more people, and that way, you got one person hanging around that's not doing anything. So be it. Find something to do. You don't have enough people. You're understaffed.
Yeah, they're gonna bounce.
Yeah, they're gonna leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not gonna stick around. I mean, why? Why would I do that? Okay, it's unless it's just something that I really want to go to.
I've left restaurants,
Yeah, I've worked in a restaurant.
groups of 4 or more.
Yeah, I've worked in restaurants. All right, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily fall on the workforce as far as like delays or customers not staying to patronize. Like it may just be the demand is really high, and no matter what, it becomes starting diminishing returns. Like you could have 20 people back there, but only 2 people can really cook, right? What are the other 18 people doing? They're useless. They might as well not be there, right? So it's a really delicate balance in trying to figure out, what's the appropriate amount of people that I need to achieve the objective. All right. Well, good question though. All right, provide direction and coherence on all HR activities and systems. I think that's another point that you brought up earlier when I was talking about direction, okay? So one of the key things, really at the higher levels, VP of HR, president of human resource personnel, that kind of thing. They're the ones that are going to be giving, the CEO, the CFO advice on what to do, right? Based on our objectives, okay? And not necessarily operational information, guidance, but just more this is what the workforce is looking like. That's what the labor force is looking like, right? And so we know we have X, Y, Z amount of people. We know that we want to go this way. Maybe that, puts one of our priorities or objectives later on down the run, right? Because we can't do that right now because we don't have the workforce. That no one's in the labor market that we can hire to do this job. So maybe we don't prioritize this job, and we allocate that $10 million that we were going to put on this project. We put it on this project till we get the workforce that we need, right? And that may take a couple years. That may take us going out of the country. That may take us, shuffling some things around or creating partnerships and alliances with other companies to share resources and that kind of thing, right? And so that's the impact that, HR, strategic HR planning has on the overall picture. Is that, yes, we want to do something, right? But do we have the people to do it, right? Do we have the skill set resident within the organization in order for us to be effective, right? And if we don't have it, there's no point in us trying to push this initiative because it's going to fall flat. Right? And then we wasted money and time, probably made some people upset, right? So we don't want to do that. Right?
I think I was pondering about another word when you were thinking about the directionality.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a person placed, like you mentioned, it could be a good person for a bad job or bad
Right.
life. So I think the word could be suitable.
Yes,
Everything is
yes,
suitable
it's the same thing, suitable, right?
and appropriate.
Appropriate, a fit, good fit, so all the words, the right is just the word that you'll hear or see in most textbooks, and you'll hear in most language when they're talking about this, right? But at the end of the day, it's all the same. We just need somebody that's going to fit the job and be as effective and productive as possible, right? At the same time, be happy in the job, okay? And also something that we can afford right? Which is always the hard part. Putting those pieces together is difficult. Finding somebody we can afford that likes what they're doing, is good at what they're doing, all right? Willing to come work, all right, and gonna be satisfied, right? It's really difficult.
So in service industries, when you said, it's always better to have, or mostly better to have more than being understaffed. So I think to combat issues with overstaffing, they have, let's say in restaurant business, they have 6-hour shifts.
Yeah,
So if somebody doesn't show up, they ask that person, would you be willing to work for 2 more hours?
right, the
So
overlap,
they can
yeah.
pick up. So some people work 6 hours, some people work 8 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it does provide other opportunities for people who want to, stay on longer, who want to work, right? But, you know, you can't rely on that as being a constant source of like, okay, my fallback. It can't be a good plan, a backup plan, right? It has to be strategically planned. It has to be some, like I'm gonna use the military, like Marine Corps, and Chris knows familiar with this, right? So in the Marine Corps, we have something called duty, okay? And so duty is basically somebody has to be on the premises at all times in case something happens, right? And so it rotates between the staff, really, all the personnel, rotates between all the personnel. Who's gonna be here for this 12-hour shift, right? On the weekdays, on the weekends, it's 24 hours. You gotta be there all day to the next day, right? But with that, we also have something called a supernumerary, right? And so what that person is, we have 2 of them, right? And what those people do is, hey, you are, we call it super nut, okay? And what it is, you don't have duty, right? But you're on call, okay? Just like a doctor, right? Most doctors are like this. Most doctors, it's not their shift, but they're the on-call doctor. So if something happens,
Yeah.
you gotta come in, right? That's strategic in nature. That's planned. That's deliberate, all right? Versus be like, hey, Dr. Jones, you free? We got surgery over here. I know you're a heart surgeon, but the brain, heart, kind of the same. You'll be all right, right? You can handle that, right? You can't do that, right? You have to have a strategic plan, a strategic approach to how you do certain things, as far as like people not being available to work or they're sick or whatever, because things happen, life goes on, accidents, whatever the case may be, right?
Is that position called an overwatch? So when one person clocks out and the other person comes in
No,
to cover up that gray area,
no. Mm-mm.
to be on the clock all the time?
It's if the duty is unable, let's say they have a medical emergency in their family, the supernumerary has to come in. So they're on call to come in.
Yeah, our friends together.
The other thing kind of on the military side, but it applies, we just have a name for the military. Every organization has people who are either in training,
Mhm.
on vacation,
Right,
out sick.
out sick, something, or
it's the P2,
incarcerated, or
Yeah,
incarcerated,
the P2, T2 is
Yeah.
what they call it in the military.
yeah.
So you can always guarantee that on any given day, 25% of your workforce is not available.
Yeah.
Just across the board, 25% of your people aren't available.
That'll work. And that's something that, organizations think about also, especially the VP of HR and that kind of, they think about, okay, what's my capacity and what do I think I'm going to actually have as a working capacity on a daily basis? On average, am I gonna have 75%? Am I gonna have 80%? Am I gonna have 90% of my workforce available for me to staff and to plan out with those folks?
I had to do a workforce plan for Miramar,
Yeah.
for the MPs,
Mhm.
with the P2, T2 in consideration to
Yeah.
what gates stayed open and what gates closed
closed,
and
yeah.
what times based off of manpower.
Yeah. Because so
It was crazy.
during COVID, especially you saw this, right? As COVID started waning and things started opening back up, you notice that things that used to be open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. were open at 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., right? Very strategic, not only because of the fact that people weren't necessarily just coming back out, is that, hey, I don't need that many people for this shift, right? So if I can predetermine the shift, like the number of hours I'm gonna stay open, and I know what day of the week it is and that kind of thing, I can workforce plan this pretty well, right? And so a lot of restaurants did that because, excuse me, it didn't make any sense for them to stay open 9 to 8. One, nobody was coming in. And once COVID was kind of over and people started going back, it wasn't a rush of people going anywhere, first thing. Secondly, I don't have the money because I have no business coming in, so I'm not gonna have a big bunch of folks, kind of just there being idle. I'm gonna have a certain amount of people that are gonna come in. It's 5 to 9. It's probably gonna be jam packed, which is what I want, right? I want to be efficient and maximize that time frame, right? And so that if you want to work, this is probably gonna be the time, okay? And I plan it that way, all right? I do my workforce planning, and just kind of let it go, right? Go that way, right? Let it happen, right? And then see what kind of happens. There's still, I would say, 40% to 50% of the restaurants here in San Diego are still on limited hours, 5 to 9, 4 to 10, right? You won't find too many places that's gonna stay open to like 1 or 2. Prior to COVID, there were a bunch of places that stay open to like 1 or 2. Now,
Walmart was 24/7.
not anymore. Walgreens used to be 24/7. Nope, not anymore. CVS, some of them. There's a couple of them, right?
Even the gyms were 24/7, but not
Yeah.
anymore.
Even McDonald's, right? You have to find the right McDonald's that's open 24 hours, right? And I remember pretty much all McDonald's were open 24 hours, right? But now it's like, this one's open 24 hours, this one isn't, all right? And so it all boils down to really workforce planning and understanding the external factors that are affecting the business, right? You got something?
Yeah, I'm just thinking when, with all this, human resources aspect of it, there will be a lot of conflict between the human resource manager and, the finance, manager.
Why?
Okay. Because we are talking about having reserve of, the human resources personnel to take over whenever there is problem. But we indirectly were increasing the cost,
Mm-hmm.
like the cost of production of
Absolutely.
service, and which the goal of the company is to make profit at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking, because we just did, strategic financial management,
Mm-hmm.
my last course, so
Right.
it's a bit contradicting, within our, here.
Right. That's a good point. At the end of the day, the money talks, okay? So HR is always gonna be kind of at the bottom of the decision-making pole, right? It's gonna be operations, and it's gonna be how much money do we have, okay? So, me as an HR person, if I go in and I say, hey, you know what? And the thing is about HR is that HR doesn't make any decisions, right? HR has control over nothing. Managers, HR manages things. So any hiring, firing, recruiting that HR is doing is something the behest of some other department. Okay? So you gotta remember that. Right? It's not HR telling, hey, we're gonna hire you, and then we'll fit you. No, it's marketing. Hey, I need a marketing person. Okay, HR goes and they do their thing and they go find a marketing person, right? Same thing with finance. Finance will tell HR like, okay, you got $50,000. That's all you got. Find somebody, right? This is why a lot of jobs stay vacant, right? Because that amount of money is not market value. It's what we have, right? That's so we make it work. So HR will never get into a real pissing contest with any other departments for the most part, right? HR will go, okay, I got $50,000. They'll give them a disclaimer like, you're gonna get what you get, right? Whatever $50,000 gets you, you're okay with that, okay? Because it's not on me. You give me $50,000 when you know the market rate is 75 or it's 80, right? And so you have to look at the size of the organization, what it is they're doing. Are they in their growth phase, right? Or in the retraction phase? Is there an outlook, 4 or 5 years down the road that the industry is going to grow, or it's going to get smaller, or it's going to disappear, right? So, but HR is never going to be fighting with finance. Finance basically, even with operations, you don't have any money, you really can't do too much. okay?
So it means at the end of the day, all these things you said, it's going to be based on the availability.
Yes.
of finance.
Gonna be based on your resources, right? What do I have to work with? Okay, what do I have to work with, right? And that's just the way it is, right? Because, like you said, they're in it for profit, okay? It's not benevolence or, trying to be nice. We're trying to make a dollar, okay? And so we know that payroll is one of the most expensive things we have. And so we're going to do our best to limit that, right? And remember we were talking last week about going in for a job interview, and you should always do a counter offer, right? HR, they have a certain amount of money put aside, right? Based on the workforce planning. We have $85,000 to give to whoever it is, right? But do we want to give them the $85,000? No, we don't want to give them $85,000. We want to give them as little as possible. Okay, so if they can figure something like, hey, yeah, you know, you got the degree, you got the fit, your personality, but you don't have the experience. But don't worry, we'll teach you. But guess what? You're not gonna be at the top of the pay scale. We're gonna give you 75. Yeah, we're gonna give you lower. But what about this 85? That's for people with experience and, that meet all the criteria. So if you wanna take that job, no problem, right? They don't wanna give you more money, right? But they expect you to ask for it. Cause that's more of a personality thing. They're trying to gauge your, your assertiveness, right? Are you, want to stand up for yourself, right? Because that's an important aspect of, especially when you're planning things, right? The worst thing you can have when you're doing planning is people that don't want to speak up when they see something's off, okay? Because whoever's devising the plan or working towards the plan, it's only one person. They can't think of every possible scenario that's going to happen, right? They can't surmise every situation that is going to arise, right? And so you need a group of people when you're doing planning, all right? And so you can't just be someone who is a yes man or a yes woman or whatever the case may be, right? You have to be somebody who's vocal, because if you let somebody build a plan and the plan is crappy, guess what? We're all going to be going to crap land. Okay, we're all going down the road, and it's not gonna be pretty for anybody, all right? And so it's important that they have the right staff and right people to speak up, but when you do the workforce planning, it's about the resources you have and the people that you have around you and your objectives, okay? And HR is just a executioner or executes the plan. They don't really have any, yeah, not the execution, excuse me, not the best word, right?
But sometimes they are.
Yeah, they execute the plan, right? Whatever the plan is, whether the plan is hiring, whether the plan is firing, whether the plan is, realignment, whatever the plan is, it's not HR dictating, right? Now, HR will give their input and say, look, I know what we want to do, but this is the market. And then the powers that be will decide, okay, well, if this is what the landscape is like, we need to alter our trajectory. We need to go a different direction because that's not gonna happen, right? Based on the information that HR is giving us. That's what you do in a staff role, right? This is what you do as an advisor, as a guidance. That's what the cabinet is for, right? To advise and guide, because the president can't know everything. The president needs help. CEOs need help. If you want the company to be successful, I need your input, right? I need your critical input. But that happens at the higher level, right? Just this all reports. It's okay. They don't get paid till next week, so times are tough,
Wow,
you know?
go get a second job.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. All right, let's see. What about that? All right. Oops. Okay. All right, so different types of planning. We kind of talked about aggregate planning already, okay? So when it comes down to the workforce plan, the majority of the planning is really focused on the masses, okay? Because there's fewer people at the top, and those folks, they're just different. The search and the planning for those folks are not in the same way that you do it for the lower level folks, right? CEOs don't go to interviews. CEOs get called up like, hey, we got a position, we think you might be a good fit, just come in, talk to the board, send us your Vita, all right? It's no longer a resume anymore, now it's a Vita, all right, at that level. And they come in, they sit down, they have coffee, and then they say, yeah, okay, it's gonna be all right, and then they bring them in, right? So when you do a workforce plan, you usually worry about middle managers on down. Okay, people that you have to sit down with interviews and talk to them and figure out if they're bringing the correct skill sets, right? What's their temperament, availability, all this stuff, right? And how are we going to, kind of scale those people up, right? How are we going to, the care and feeding of these people? When I talk about care and feeding of people, training, promotion, right? Benefits, right? Those are all things that employees care about. They're concerned about. Am I going to be able to move up the ladder? Okay. Am I going to be able to, learn more while I'm here? Right? Am I going to develop professionally? Am I going to develop in my career? Right? And so we really are concerned with, the majority of folks, because those folks at the top are 15 to 20 folks tops, right? Not including the board, right? The board's a whole different animal, right? But those 15, 20 folks, the C-suite, basically, those guys are different, okay? Everybody else, that's what we plan for. That's what workforce planning is about, right? Do we have the appropriate people in the right job, the right time, right place at that level? Because again, they're the ones that actually do the job, right? We sit up here, we plan stuff, right? There's a lot of planning that goes on. I plan a lot of things. I plan a great research discussion. I don't gotta do it though. You gotta do it. And you start doing it, like, this research discussion sucks. Like, it doesn't flow, it doesn't, it doesn't sound right, or I'm confused, right? I did it, I made it, I put them together, but I'm not doing it, so I don't really know what it's like, right? You're the ones experiencing it, you're the ones that actually have to do it. So it's important that I take your concerns into consideration when I'm doing the next one, right? And say, hey, this one was a little unclear, can we get some clarity on that? I don't like the timeline on, this one. Okay, good to go, all right? And those little things that, eventually I push up to the staff and say, you know what, the students always complain about that, they have a class on Tuesday, but discussion is due on Wednesday. They don't like that. They don't think it's fair. They think they should get an extra day or something to do it, right? When it really doesn't matter. But then at the end of the day, I move those things up and then they decide the policy. I don't decide the policy. I don't decide when things are due, this school here. Traditionally, in a regular school, I would decide everything as the instructor, right? You go to SDSU, it's a little different. Right? You decide when things are due, you decide what you feel like grading, what you don't feel like grading, how long the exams are. You have a lot more freedoms here. That's not how it is, right? And a lot of schools are more like that because they're trying to get something consistent across the board, right? In their school, they're trying to get a situation where if you went through my business 7110 in the spring and you went through in the fall, you guys should have talked to each other and be the same thing. Okay? Whereas if you go to other schools, teacher may teach this in the fall, and then spring comes around, you take it then, it's like two different classes, right? Like, are we talking about the same thing here? Same exact teacher, same material, just, that teacher may, yeah, it's different, right? That person may be going through something that particular semester, and they may decide, oh, this is not relevant anymore, this is important, right? And so you have to really plan for, the student body or the workforce appropriately, and not necessarily plan for the people at the top, right? It's not about them. They get enough perks. They got good salaries, they got the office, they got, parking spot, they got all that good stuff. They're taken care of. It's the folks down here that I'm really concerned about, hey, do we have enough of those folks in the right places, and are we taking care of them in the right way? All right. All right, succession planning, all right, definitely a key factor in any organization, right? again, depending on the size of the company, succession planning can be a very easy thing, or it could be very difficult, okay? Because it's really hard to start differentiating folks at the higher levels and trying to pick out their skill sets and which one is better, okay? A lot of times it's very relative, right? What position are we in now as a company? Who's the right person to lead us into the future, right? It may not necessarily mean that the other person is not good. It's just that that person is not the right fit at this moment to lead us into, into the future. The smaller company, the easier it is because I probably have a more intimate relationship with you, right? Like this class is small, right? Super tiny. So I have more of an intimate relationship with you, right? But sometimes when I teach at City College, I have 80 students. Don't ask me any of their names, okay? Because I'll be lying to you, right? I don't know any of them, right? And they know me, but just because I'm just one person, right? But for the most part, they don't know me. I don't know them, I should say, right? So the succession planning is easy in that regard, where I can go, okay, I know each person more familiar, more intimately. I can say, you know what, this person, I recommend this person for this particular job at this moment, right? The bigger companies, it's more of a process, right? And it's a no crap like job. It's somebody's job to put the succession plan together and to manage succession planning. Because within succession planning, what do you think succession planning entails? What do you think that the things that go into succession planning from a planning standpoint, from you being the guy or gal that's doing the succession planning for the company?
Training, education,
Training, education, what else?
experience,
Experience, what else?
skill set,
What else?
timelines for people. Are
Okay.
they ready?
Are they ready? Okay, what else? Other things?
There,
What else?
is there a familiar requirement, like family requirement for the succession planning to be in place for things? Some organizations will have that,
Yeah, okay,
private companies.
yeah. But think about this from a generic level, a generic standpoint.
I think it's just about replaceability, because if you retire or you leave that position, someone has to
Okay.
take over with the same, level of engagement,
Okay,
with the same skill set, and for that, you need to have them trained.
yeah.
Especially when you have to be eligible before.
Yeah. So one of the things that, that people don't think about when they do succession planning, or the person that's not doing it, I should say, right? They may not take consideration, right? You gotta take consideration those demographic things, right? Age, gender, race, right? I know they say you don't do that, but that's what happens, okay? I have to take your age into consideration, right? Because think about it from this standpoint. This is the first time, I think, in history, we're gonna have, I think, the two oldest presidents, right?
Yes.
Now think about succession planning on that level, right? Joe Biden is 82, or 83 or something, 81, 81, okay? What happens when he dies? If he dies in office, who's next?
Yeah.
Who's next?
Kamala,
Kamala, right? The vice president is next, right?
Harris,
If she dies, what happens?
Speaker of the House,
Speak it out. If that person dies, who's next?
that goes to the.
No. You would think that, right? No.
No, it goes to.
Goes to the majority whip,
Majority whip.
okay? Then the next person is minority whip, okay? And after all these people are done, I know some of you probably like, I don't know none of these people, which is fine, right? After all these people are done, right? And then in the day, right, there's like, I think it's the chief of staff who's at the bottom.
Yeah, that's the designated
That's the
survivor.
designated survivor, right?
Right,
The chief of staff is the person that will be president, right?
if all others die.
Of all this die. Now, right,
I mean, it doesn't usually happen this way, but you need to have some contingency plan.
absolutely.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the contingency plan. Is that, hey, this is what happens if the president dies. This is who's next. This is who's next, right? So think about if you do that poorly. Think about a bad succession plan. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm somewhat Democrat, somewhat independent, little Republican, whatever, right? I'm not a big fan of Kamala Harris. I don't think she's done a great job. Now, do I think she could be president? No. She'd be terrible, right? Do I want that person as the next leader, right? And these are the things you gotta think about when you're doing succession planning. Do I want this person leading the company? Is this the person that I see as the boss? Does this person fit the bill as a CEO? What are you laughing at? It's so-
I just think like when you gonna vote for Democrats, I
Yeah.
think they announce who is gonna be the president, right? So
Yeah. They tell you, this is my vice president, this is my
really,
president.
don't mind.
Yeah, this is it, well, that's an extreme case of when he's the president. It's just that it's sealed in stone, like you can't do anything about it for the 4 years, right? You can't fire, well, you can't fire the vice president. The president can't fire the vice president. I've never seen that before. I think it happened way back in the day, one time, but the president traditionally does not fire the president, the vice president. But think about, Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, right? Who would you want to be his vice president?
There's a few names.
There's a few names, right? But these are the things he's thinking about because he also has to think about workforce planning. Okay? He has to think about who am I gonna have on the cabinet? Who am I gonna have as my right-hand person? If something happens to me, that person's gonna take over, right? So age is a consideration in this respect, because they're both old, right? They both show signs of, yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly, right? They're both kind of off their rocker, but they're old, so that's okay. Be off your rocker. You just can't be the president and be off your rocker. Okay? So it's important and it's critical that companies do their succession planning well and in an efficient manner, in a productive manner, because if you don't, you'll have someone at the helm who's going to take the company down.
Berkshire Hathaway,
What about it?
as an example, they had a very robust succession plan.
Yeah.
Especially after Charlie Munger died and
Yeah.
different things, but they have, because I stock in their B fund.
Mhm.
Their A fund's $500,000 a
Yeah,
share.
yeah.
The B fund is more
More
affordable.
Still 40 million.
But, no, it's
It's
at like $370 a share.
That's not bad.
But they have a very robust succession plan
Yeah.
for what happened when, he dies.
Yeah.
Is they have this whole thing already lined out of.
But why do you think they
everything.
have that?
Because otherwise, the organization, the company and everything with it would just fall apart.
Yeah, but that's not why though. Why do you think they have that? How did that come to be?
Future plan?
Yeah, but think about like, do all companies have a succession plan?
No,
No,
most don't.
right?
Yes.
Most don't, right? It's because Warren Buffett knows, look, I need to have a plan in place, all right? I'm one of the richest people in the world, one of the greatest investors probably that ever lived. Billions in assets, people's lives depend on me, all right? So in his wisdom, he's like, you know what, I need a succession plan. We need to come with something airtight and with competent people. And the other thing about the succession plan, depending, how you look at it, if you look at certain ones and look at the amount of experience the person has, right? You want somebody who's been exposed to different things, right? And of course, it takes time, right? You just can't be CEO like that unless you start your own company, right? Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, those kind of guys, they kind of learned fire by baptism, right? They just kind of got in there and they just got hosed down and they burned and they made a lot of bad mistakes and they got lucky that they made it through and, got good people around them to help them out and figure things out, right? But for the most part, when you're doing your succession planning, you have to, think about time. And if the person that you're trying to groom, right, how early are you starting them? And what wickets are they hitting, right? when you do succession planning, there's a list of certain positions that I'm looking for you to go to. Okay? You have to have a job where you are, managing a large sum of money. You have to have a job where you are dealing with, internal and external, public affairs stuff. You have to have a job where you are dealing with senior level, high level folks. You have to have a job where you're used to dealing with international and domestic issues, right? And that takes time to build, right? And so the succession plan is always a long-term thing, right? It's never like, oh, if this person's gonna be ready to be CEO in a year, let's go, right? If that person is ready to be CEO in a year, if you look behind of what they've been doing, they've probably been doing what they're doing for a long time, and then they can step in, right? But companies, a lot of times, don't have a good succession plan, and you end up having a CEO that passes or a pivotal executive that passes, and you have no one to fill their shoes, right? Because the workforce is young, right? The workforce is young. And the other issue you have with that is that you have to look at, the landscape again and go, okay, we have a young workforce. Most, if not all, matter of fact, I read an article, most, if not a majority of Gen Zs, millennials and Gen As, right? They don't want leadership positions. They don't be managers. Okay, first thing. Secondly, their tenure at a company is short. Okay, 3 years, 3 to 5 years, right? Vice Gen X, baby boomers, older folks, right? We like being in the company 20 years, 25 years, right? We're looking for security, right? That's the thing about that generation. We're looking for long-term security that we know that is consistent, right? That's not what this labor force is looking for. This labor force is looking for dynamic, interesting things to do. And that means that I'm here 3 years, cool, I'm gonna go someplace else 3 years, right? Or, hey, yeah, I'm here in this company here, but you know what? I'm gonna go overseas and do an overseas job. Okay? And so you don't have anyone there that's long enough in many instances to even put them in the succession plan because they're moving around so much. So now you really have to look at experiences and figure, okay, have you been exposed to this? Have you been exposed to that? Have you been exposed to this? And then put them like, okay, if I had to rank and tier them, where would I put them as far as being able to step up and be CEO or COO, CFO, whatever the critical position is, right? So there's a lot that goes to succession plan. And most companies every year, yeah, I think every year, a year and a half or so, they do a review of the succession plan just to make sure everything is good to go.
You
Okay?
gotta make sure Bob or Mary is still employed at the company.
Right, gotta make sure everybody's employed, and then you also have to look at, what are the different financial implications of that? Okay, so my incumbent CEO or CFO, I'm paying them $1 million, right? But if that person passes and somebody else goes, oh, that person retires and I have to move somebody else up, I'm probably gonna be paying them more, right? And so what does that do to the books? How does that impact me financially, right? Am I gonna get into a bidding war with this person about their salary? Okay, is the person, and you hope that the person, whoever it is, doesn't get into any trouble. Okay, like, and it's somebody that is favorable amongst the workforce. That some people, the board specifically, right? If you're dealing with CEOs and CFOs in the C-suite, the board is really the group of people that decide whether or not we're gonna bring this person on as CEO, unless they a majority shareholder. Okay, so all those things play a role in succession planning, how to figure out, okay, how do we put this matrix together of viable, groovable folks, right? And where do we start? Do we start at the bottom and kind of see, okay, we've been, what's the criteria? Been with the company 5 years and is a, middle manager. Boom, we put them in the slot. Okay, now we start looking at them and seeing, okay, what do I have as far as the cream of the crop in that particular category? And then I start to funnel that, make it smaller till I get to about 3 or 4 folks that I'm like, okay, hey, this is my team. In case something happened, boom, we're going to go ahead and move these people up, right? And then the point you brought up about family and succession planning being, centered around that, right? You know, I'm not a big fan of that personally, unless the person is capable, right? And I have no problem with, people hiring family members and friends and that kind of thing, because that's how most people get hired. But, you need to be qualified. You got to do the job. I just can't hire you because you're my cousin and my auntie or my mom pressured me to hire you and you're a box of rocks.
Enterprise's current CEO is the granddaughter of the founder,
Yeah,
but she started as an intern.
right. That's what it should be.
Worked every job all the way up.
Right. And most companies that have been around for a while and are doing it well, they will have that. They will say, yes, you have the last name, right? Your father's family, guess what? You're gonna start in the trenches because I need you to understand every facet of this business.
That's what she did.
Because that's the exposure we're looking for, all right? We need you to, boom, you're gonna be a manager, all right? Next thing you know, you're a regional manager, and then next thing you know, you're, national manager, and then they got you doing something else, right? And so you moved up and you experienced different budgets, right? You experienced, when I first came in the military, I couldn't manage the budget, I could barely manage my own budget, okay? And I wasn't making that kind of money, okay? But as I got different jobs and started getting experience, right? I got to $20 million budget, $50 million budget, $100 million budget, right? I got, $25 million worth of assets that I manage. I got this, I got that, I got this. All those things go down as marks for me. Oh, he knows how to manage a budget of 25 million. He's been, managing assets. He's managed 1,000 people. Those are all things that they look at, okay, can we groom him to move up to the next level? Okay, do we think he has the potential, right? Because we don't pay you, we don't promote you, right, on past performance. We promote you because of your future potential. Okay, your past performance has shown us or displayed to us that you have the skills, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're gonna perform down the road, right? Because you may have tapped out. Right, what time is it?
6:42.
Okay, let's take 10 minutes here and then come back. Come back at 6:50. I'm glad to see you.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm very glad to see you. You brought ball and chain with you, huh? You brought Terry. That's good, that's good. You guys gonna sit in class? If you guys gonna sit in class, I'll keep on going.
No, I'm getting ready.
Don't get me wrong. I will keep rolling. We will get out of here. Okay? Joshua's back there dying. Joshua, you working? Yeah? Yeah, I know you like, I don't know if I want to answer that question. You're working. I got it. Okay, you're working. All right. All right, just checking. And then you're always tired. That's like, Joshua's always tired. Those comes to class. He's good for 5 minutes and then.
He does something. Last week was weak.
That's bad.
This week was
Okay. Yeah. My thing is about, hey, do your work, be all right, be fine. Are you recording this day? That's why you have both?
Huh?
Are you recording? That's why you have both, or you just?
No, because when I began with my phone just.
Oh, yeah,
Just to see if the link worked, because in the
Ah, I
morning.
got you, yeah. I got you.
And as I started driving, I didn't like turn it off.
Yeah.
That's why I came into class, I turned on the laptop, so I might still on both. Cause I
There you go.
took myself off of it.
It don't matter, it's not interfering with anything.
Because it's already turned off on my phone, but I don't know
That's
why.
weird. That's so weird.
I think you
Huh.
just to
Great. No, oh well.
Is effective, how the waves come in. But I don't know. You go to check it out.
No. No, I don't, yeah.
So there's some
I work from home, so I didn't, I haven't worked.
there's some light grounds. They got that and see what's happening. And then the waves came on the wave.
I don't know. This guy, like, so short.
My friend.
Yeah.
How you doing, sir?
Basketball.
All right.
Good, good, good.
Yeah.
But like, valuable. Wow, like, yeah.
So it's nice to meet you in person.
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, my friend, how are you?
Hi.
I just opportunity that study is now around at home, that's why.
Yeah.
When will be our next report?
So,
Friday. And it
So,
was just a regular, but still the waves were too high.
So how many in person are gonna be?
So much money went there. I
huh?
don't know.
I mean,
So he's gonna put, so I've asked him to put the three of us, and there may be one more.
You know where we got the station?
So,
There's just no
last
channel.
time it was a big.
Yeah,
deal.
like,
I didn't-
yeah, yeah,
I
so
thought that
you don't even,
then
Yeah,
I
it
got outside.
was,
you don't even know. So, that's
Okay.
somewhere in the process.
Yeah, I think there are some basics, I mean, people know which group they are.
Yeah, yeah, but there's so much more above, so
No, I did it.
my
a couple times.
theory, or what I'd like to do, and this is what we did the last, is that on Sunday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, I'll send out a Zoom, prior to that, I'll send a Zoom link on the school email that we meet at 5 to talk about the week 4, because the week 4 will be listed. So if we meet at 5, we can strategize with whatever the assignment is, and then we each will have our pieces for it, to know what we have to do.
Yeah, that's great.
And that,
I like to get it with friends.
yeah, that's why, so probably Sunday morning, I'll go create the Zoom meeting for us to be able to,
So
we only
for
have
this
like,
weekend.
yeah, for this Sunday, yeah. So this Sunday at like 5, and that way we can have our, we can have our chat, we can figure out, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Like we,
I mean, if we do like this weekend,
Oh, is that what
it's good, like you can prepare.
yeah, yeah, so we can do on Wednesday, so we can have, and then on Wednesday,
Our group had 5, the other group had.
what we'll do is we'll meet, because we have to do a recording with all of our, so at like 5 o'clock on
Yeah, he said it,
Wednesday.
but I don't know why.
Well,
he said
whatever time
he's
you're
gonna fix it
available.
This time.
I can meet against like 5:30.
Yeah, 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 so I'll do
Because
6
there were too many
o'clock,
emails going in
so
and out.
6 o'clock on Wednesday,
Who's gonna work with?
we'll,
So maybe
we'll
somebody.
meet on Zoom,
But.
won't record it yet, we'll talk about the PowerPoint that we're putting
Yeah,
together, we'll
Yeah.
rehearse it,
Unless.
and then I'll record it, and then I'll save it. We don't have to, like I saw you went back and you submitted the PowerPoint, you don't have to submit the PowerPoint because it's part of the video. So when everybody submits PowerPoints and stuff, it bogs down the system.
because, other students were not sure, that's why I tried.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so if you're, so for you to be able to see it, for you to be able to see, and this will happen, because I'll be the one who posts for the 3 of us.
Okay.
But for you to be able to see what we posted, you just have to go and just put your name and a title, and just put, checking in to see the other contributions, so you can see what the people are doing. And that's, so you have to create something to be able to look at. I don't know why Noodle does that.
My help.
Like, I think it's wrong, like, I think that's a screw up thing in Noodle, like, I don't think that, I've never had that in a school before where you couldn't see the discussion boards until you posted something. Like, yeah, well, whatever. So, but that's what we'll do. And then I'll save the video, and then I'll upload the video. The video has the PowerPoint, the video has our discussion, and then that's what we'll do. And it just makes, it's
Yeah,
It's
it's
simple when we
go.
plan.
We need to know in time
Like they
what
say,
the
poor
countries
planning
are
on your
about
part
that.
doesn't
So
constitute
we
an
can
emergency
start
on
thinking
time,
about
so.
Everybody,
I mean, I'm
like,
sure it's gonna make a big difference.
everybody said maybe on
Compared to
weekend,
what I used to
Saturday,
do.
Sunday.
Yeah, like on the very simple PowerPoints are like 30 words per slide or
So
less,
then we have time on the
and
weekends.
you talk about the points on
Some of
And
us,
that's
like me,
it. That's,
I work
that's
a
how
lot.
I do,
mean,
like,
the
a
boards
PowerPoint
online,
isn't supposed to,
everywhere,
like, that's
and
a
I've
horrible
seen other
PowerPoint
programs about-
Like, that's a garbage slide, because it says so much. No, quite literally,
Okay.
I always want
quite
to
literally,
work as early as
that is
possible.
too many words on a PowerPoint slide.
Before
Like, because what most people do, he doesn't do it, but what most people do on a PourPoint is they will simply read that and then move up, well, I'm not in kindergarten, I don't need you to read a PowerPoint to me, I can do
Yeah,
that.
like a few keywords.
Yeah, keywords, the ideas, like how you did, how she did hers, was really, like, it was more than 30 words, but it was very good.
Yeah.
Like, why you the dated words,
PowerPoint
it
that
was,
needs to
it was,
PowerPoint.
yeah.
So,
Everybody,
Sunday.
once a week, you are
Sunday, I'm
giving
like,
the details.
I'm gonna send-
I'll send it away.
I can read mine.
I'll send it away.
So
So it'll be on your
one word.
school list.
Alright, so what's on
Because I
the
would do
slide,
my
we take out things and-
I don't pay for it, so we're limited on our time, but
That's why I had what to speak on in the note section, just in case I don't take it off. Take it off.
I just look at it.
It's so important.
I know how to do this.
Everything that and,
They have- I've talked before. So
All
I
right.
gotta have
Let's get it moving. All right,
a slight
so,
advantage.
next thing is, forecasting, right? Probably one of the more difficult things to do. Unless you are well versed in, well, not well versed, but understand some basic statistics, right? Forecasting can be, pain in the butt, right? So, different types of forecasting. Most people do something called a naive forecast. Okay, basically, a naive forecast is what happened last year. Okay, what's the historical, kind of precedents that I can lean on to say, okay, last year we did, 15, whatever. So this year we're gonna say, if we're gonna consider growth, we'll do 20, so we'll go off of that number. When you come down to real forecasting, especially when it comes to workforce planning and, taking into consideration the resources as far as money goes, it's a little more robust. Okay, we're talking about more of a standard deviation, we're talking about like ANOVAs, we're talking about a lot of just analysis about the different factors that play a role in, okay, how do we forecast properly, right? As the example that we use for the restaurant, all right? And having appropriate staff, that's forecasting, right? It's Tuesday, it's 6 o'clock, we stay open till 10, what are we expecting to see, right? But this is being done a week or two prior to this week, right? So that's what the whole point of forecasting is, right? We're trying to predict the outcome, right? Or what we think may happen, right? That's a difficult task, especially in workforce planning, because there's so many factors that you have to take into consideration, right? But as part of the workforce planning, right, there's no way around it, right? And you never know what's necessarily gonna come into the picture that's going to, totally just kill your forecast, all right? Now, I have to say that most companies are pretty good now at doing it, okay? Because they get a rhythm as far as the industry goes and, understanding the ins and outs of their business. So they're pretty good at forecasting right now. But then there's things that happen like COVID, all right, that just totally throw forecasts out the door, right? Or, for instance,
Yesterday's floods.
yesterday's floods, right, which was just crazy to me, all right? The war in Ukraine, all right? The ongoing conflict in Israel, all right? The ongoing conflict in, Africa, in some of the African nations, all right? And all around the world, right? Those things have an impact on our forecasting. I mean, specifically, you think about, okay, let's talk about the budget, right? The budget is a forecast, basically, of how much money we are gonna spend this year, right? We give an estimated, okay, I'm probably gonna spend $1 million this year on whatever. Great. Alright, but guess what? You're not gonna get that $1 million unless you do something about the border. You're not gonna get $1 million unless you do something about Ukraine. You're not gonna get $1 million unless you do something about Israel. What I want you to do, right? Okay? And so these things are kind of the things that impact forecasting. Because now I really don't know what's gonna happen as far as, okay, the war in Ukraine. How much more aid, how much more money is the United States going to contribute to that endeavor? Okay? And then what you really need to look at is the long-term impacts, right? If we don't forecast properly, right? And even if you go as more specific as Ukraine and Russia, right? If you're there and you're planning, right? You're trying to forecast, when this first started, anybody know what the timeline was for how long they thought this would last?
Was it like 90 days?
It was like a week. It was like 7 days. Russia's gonna come in, crush them to death, and that'd be that. Okay? It's what, going on a year? I think, close to it?
Yeah, February.
More than that, yeah. So the forecasting that they did for ammunition, food, medical supplies, just overall, just things, right? That forecast is out the door.
Yeah.
Now it's been out the door, okay? And so now we need to come with a new forecast. So one of the things that Russia did, right, which is interesting to me, and other countries have done it also past the wars, right? So they were forecasting the amount of casualties that they were gonna have possibly during this war, right? And so in light of the numbers that they saw, right, after they realized like this is gonna be a prolonged endeavor, they went and said, you know what, we need to get more staffing, we need more workforce, we need more troops, all right? Anybody know what the Russia did?
They conscripted people.
They conscripted people, right? But what else?
What is this?
Conscription, when when you have mandatory military service.
Oh,
Usually 2 years, most countries have it, we have the draft, but
Israel is 2 years.
yeah, it's 2 years. But what did they do? In order to try to help themselves out with this whole staffing workforce
They just
issue.
started grabbing people and throwing them into service, didn't they?
Yeah, they just started grabbing folks, but what folks did they grab?
Young men,
Yeah, they got
young
men.
women.
Yeah, yeah, huh?
Vulnerable people.
You say rebel people?
No, vulnerable.
Vulnerable, yeah, okay, yeah,
No,
okay, like who, like what, vulnerable people, like who?
Just like you said, younger people,
and
people
they
in
don't
need,
know
who are
the-
maybe in some debt.
Yeah.
They took all ages, didn't
No, all age males, yeah, for the most part, I think 15, 16 really cut off, right? They went to the prisons.
Yes, I was gonna say that. If they go into the prison.
Yeah, they went to the prisons, and this is what it is, all right? You're gonna fight, or you gonna stay in prison?
Right,
If you fight and you make it out of this war, you're free.
free,
Right.
suicide squad.
Whatever crime you did, you're good.
they? They'll commit some more.
Yeah, we just need you to fight for us,
Right.
Wow.
okay? Workforce planning, right? Sometimes you do a forecast, it doesn't really come out the right way, right? And so you have to plan differently. You have to go into some extreme action in order to facilitate your objective, right? To make it happen. Because without that, Russia would no doubt they're kind of losing now, sort of in a way, right? Kind of even, but it's even because the United States is backing Ukraine up. If the United States was in Ukraine, would have been toast a long time ago, right? But at the end of the day, Russia is also suffering casualties, right? They're also suffering workforce shortages, okay? And so they are coming up with ways in which to fix their forecast, right? How much longer can we go with the staff or with the personnel we have? Can we survive another year? in this war, another 2 years in this war, right? Kind of like going back to World War II. And at the end of the day, we just outlasted Germany. The coalition, the alliance just beat them down, right? We just have more people, right? Just have more people.
Yeah, so I think that's what my question is. So compared to the population, Russia might have more people, maybe looking other ways like prison, whatever. Then what about Ukraine? Because they have certain amount of people, even though they're getting support from the United States by in terms of money and mercy, like ammunition, whatever.
Right.
But what about the people? Are they supporting them with their troops?
Supporting who would,
Ukraine,
as far as what?
manpower, like to fight back. Is the number of people who are in military?
Technically, the US does not have boots on the ground.
No, we have no personnel on the ground. Technically. Okay, in public, we don't have anybody. Okay. Now, in reality, yes.
Because if both
There's a
countries
small
have some
contingent.
casualties, where are they gonna get some more?
So,
people
okay,
will-
so this is where the workforce planning comes in, right? So, you're one side is Ukraine, one side is Russia, right? And we're both, experiencing casualties, right? What do you think the HR person is telling the Ukrainian, what is it, Vladimir, no, what's his name? Zelensky, right? What do you
Yeah.
think he's telling him?
What, asking civilians? to
He's
join
telling,
them?
hey, look.
Because he was the one who came up like, I'm gonna fight.
Yeah, but they just say, he says, hey, you know what? This war's probably gonna go another year. This is where our staff is at. This is where our workforce is at, right? What do you think he's telling Zelensky? What do you think he's advising him to do?
Start pulling the women in the battle, because that's what they're doing.
Start pulling the women in battle? Okay.
I think they rely a lot the Ukraine part, the foreign fighters.
Okay, foreign fighters, okay.
They do recruit a lot.
They do, yeah, right. What else?
Just volunteers from another country,
Say that again?
like volunteers from another country.
Okay, volunteer out of the country, yeah, I mean, some people have definitely left the US and gone to fight, right? But from an HR perspective, right? From an HR perspective, what am I telling him? Or what am I advising him to do? Everything you said is something that, yes,
Probably to strategically pick where and when and how the battles are going to be
You gotta
fought
change your
with how
objectives.
many people they're gonna use.
exactly. You have to change your objectives, right? They have to be more strategic in nature. We just can't go to everything all the time, right? We have to figure, okay, what are our priorities?
What can't we lose?
Here, yes, what can't we lose, right? January, we'll do that. March, we'll do this. February, we'll relax, let the troops get back on their feet and fight when we have to fight. We'll be on defense.
Yes, in a way, they've already decided they're gonna lose something, so there will be some annexation, so
Yeah.
whatever is not important, they're ready to lose that. But
Yeah.
whatever is important, they're gonna make sure that they have enough personnel.
The
for
person,
that
yeah.
location.
But the objectives change.
Yes,
It's not anything about, once the objectives change, then there's all the other stuff comes into play of reallocating resources, right? Okay, we're gonna start moving things around because we don't care about this, right? We care about our utilities, power, that kind of thing, yeah.
An initial was they wanted to take back Crimea.
Right, they want to take
I
back
don't think
Crimea,
that's
that's
on
not
the
gonna
table.
happen, right, that's not gonna happen. They don't have the manpower for it, right? And then now, especially that the United States is in a stalemate on the budget, they're not getting any money. They're gonna, I think they have another 3 or 4 months that they can still operate at the level they operate at if they don't get an infusion of, government aid. Okay, so after 3 or 4 months, they don't get any more money from the United States, it's gonna be a downward spiral for them. Right?
but they would have like a backup plan, if this is where it's leading, they won't have support, so they would take some other action
Yeah, yeah.
before they lose.
They would, they'd have to change, right? You have to change your objectives, and this is probably the one place or one time where, or maybe more or less the situation dictates that the workforce and their, status is going to have the biggest impact on what we do next, right? This is where the cart is pulling the horse, And because I need to know how many people that I have up and running, ready to fight, to figure out, can I actually take this objective? Right? Can I actually defend the borders? Do I need to pull back and defend my power grid, my oil resources, my food source, right? Do I need to use different roads? What's my approach not gonna be? And do I need more jets? Right, it's one of the things that they were asking for in jets, right, and more, fighter aircrafts, right? Do I need more of those things so I can change my approach because our ground attack is not going to work? And if I have some air, prowess or some powers, I can be more effective with less cost to me, right? And less use of my resources if I can get more aircraft and that kind of thing, right? And so again, all those are workforce considerations, right? All those are forecasting considerations about, okay, how are we going to fit people into these particular positions, right? It's not necessarily right place, right time, right job in this situation because it's a war, right? But at the same time, I still need a body, right? And on top of that, I still need succession planning. This is where succession planning is going to kick in. Because guess what? One of their generals already died, right? One of the Russian generals died. Who's stepping up, right? Is that person who's taking over, what experience do they have in a war? They haven't had a war in a while, right? They have no experience of combat. And so that has an impact about, who I put around this person. Right? I may need to have some folks that have like, experience in combat and war and tactics around this person who is the leader, but may not have the exposure that I necessarily want or requisite of a general, admiral, or whatever, senior war leader. Okay? So all those things kind of start coming into play when you look at the situation and try to figure out really, what the trajectory is of the company, right? And then what I need to do as far as, okay, laying out the plan and forecasting correctly. I may need to reduce the force. I may say, okay, next 3 years, we're gonna reduce the force by, 20%, okay? And this is happening right now in, with the United States, right, with, Boeing. Okay, everybody familiar with Boeing? Boeing, Boeing, they make airplanes. All the 737s and 895s or whatever, that we fly in A321, Airbus, all those stuff. Yeah,
Airbuses are a different company.
yeah, I can't.
They've taken over for both. They've actually,
That's Northrop Grumman, huh?
I
can't
don't know, Airbus is a totally different company, but they now have the market share over both.
Yeah, but either way, these are the people that are making the planes, right? And then they've had a few problems with the plane, right? The parts have fallen off, that kind of thing. They had the whole issue with, the plane going down when they made the MAX, the 737 MAX, that went down and it killed all the people. Then the MH370 that just disappeared. All right, that was a what you would call a 737 MAX, right? If I'm not mistaken. So Boeing has a problem, right? But who else has a problem?
All of the employees of both.
All the employees have a problem, right? But who else has a problem? Who?
Investor.
US dollars?
Oh,
Investors.
Investors? Yeah, they got a problem, but they investors, they be all right. Okay? Who else has a problem?
The government right now.
Say that again?
The passengers, because of the safety.
Yeah, no, the passengers, yeah.
The government has.
We got no control.
The
The
US
government has a problem, yeah,
has
the government has a problem, but who else has a
The
problem?
CEO.
The manager.
Manufacturers,
Who?
the manufacturer who makes.
No. So Boeing makes the planes,
Oh, the
who,
airline.
the airlines got a problem. Okay, the airlines got a problem, because as soon as that door or plug came out of the plane, and you know that was in San Diego, right? Alaska Airlines, that was here.
Really?
Yeah, that flight was from here.
Thought it was out of Portland.
No, it was here. If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
No, it was out of Portland.
Was it Portland, or was it coming here?
I think it was coming here. It was out
Okay,
of
so
Portland.
either way, it's coming here, it's going, leaving here,
Yeah,
it's something
it
with
was
San
out of
Diego,
Portland.
right? Either way, right? they end up canceling like 50 flights because they don't have the assets. They don't,
They grounded all.
they grounded all of them, right? The FAA said, nope, can't fly these things and figure and investigate. Guess what, airlines? If you got a 737 MAX plan for a flight, that flight's done.
With that plug.
With
I
that
think
plug,
it
yeah.
has the door, which is supposed to, like, cause it's two setups
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
that
yeah,
plane,
yeah,
but yeah.
There's different configuration, but if they were flying for the most part a 737 MAX,
With a
in light of
plug.
all the issues, they're like, hey, we're grounding them for right now till we investigate and figure out what's going on. And they did the investigation pretty quickly.
And that goes back to cause Boeing doesn't make the plug,
Right,
it's another company.
they outsource that
who
stuff,
Made the plug.
right, and they put it
And
all
that
together.
company fired a whole lot of their more experienced,
Mhm.
and they did I mean, that company and Boeing both have big DEI things, which now the whole DEI thing is coming into play on their workforce, because did they fire qualified people for unqualified who met criteria that's immutable characteristics?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that one, but I had to do more research on that. But at the end of the day, what you're getting at is, yes, they let people go, which reduce their workforce, right? Which entail you can see in the work, right? And so now the airlines have a problem because guess what? Those are flights that are not going to where they're supposed to be going, right? Guess what happens? I gotta give you back either credit or your money, and based on FAA guidelines, the money, right? You can ask for your money back when the airline cancels the flight, right? So most people are gonna take their money, they're not gonna take a credit, because I don't know how you're gonna be doing with credit, right? And so that's millions, if not billions of dollars that they lost, right? Not only lost, but then they have no power to generate revenue based off of those assets, okay?
And then they have to lay off people, so their workforce planning.
And this is where the problem comes in, right, for the airlines. Because now, we forecasted a beautiful year, right? Their forecast was, we're gonna be in the black, we're gonna make plenty of money this year. And then this happened, and then they just put out a report saying, we gotta change the forecast, because we don't have that many planes, and we can't fly many people, and so, it's not gonna be as good as we thought. And then they said, Hannah, then the investors start, oh, really? Okay, well, guess what? I will uninvest my money here. I'm gonna go someplace else, okay? And then, guess what? We lost a few contracts. Guess that means we lost a few people, or we start losing people, okay? That's how it kind of goes, all right? So all these things that are happening, they're all connected to workforce planning. They're all connected at the end of the day, again, to the operations of the company, but you need people, okay? And even if you don't need people, you still need the asset, right? Even if the plane was on autopilot, you still need somebody there, okay? I don't think we're ever gonna get to the point where we have autonomous planes, not passenger planes, all right? We do have autonomous planes that are different aerial devices or whatever. But all this, all the external factors that go into play when you're looking at the workforce, right? These are all things that companies worry about, that they think about, that they have to take into consideration. How do I forecast properly? How do I make sure that I'm taking everything into consideration and thinking about, things like that. Ever heard the term force majeure? Anybody familiar with force majeure?
Force majeure,
Force majeure.
it's a French word.
That is a French word, yeah.
Force majeure is something that you cannot control. Like
Something you can't control, right? Some
Like a storm.
External.
some external, some natural act of God, right? That you can't control, right? Those happen all the time, right? But companies forecast for those kind of things, right? Force majeure that they are familiar with, right? You don't think that California has like a really good strategic plan for earthquakes? No? Because
They have a plan.
they have a plan, right? But the plan is far more well developed than the one that would be for earthquake plan in, I don't know, in Florida. Okay?
Yeah, they have hurricane and tornado.
Right. Their plans are different, right? We don't have a hurricane plan here in California, especially Southern California. Guess what? we don't have the conditions to really have a hurricane here, right? The water's too cold.
Mhm.
So they don't really, yeah, it's whatever, okay? It doesn't matter, right? So they plan, they forecast for these things. They think about these things, you know, as far as like, okay, what are some unexpected things that we know could happen, but more likely won't happen? We still need to plan for those things. We still need to be ready for those things, right? We still need to forecast the appropriate amount of people, emergency response folks, right? People on call, just like with the flood or the rain yesterday, you know, it was just crazy everywhere. There were mudslides everywhere. Mission Valley out here was flooded. You know, the San
Because they
Diego.
won't clean the San Diego River out.
Yeah,
If they would just clean out that river,
Yeah.
none of this would flood.
yeah. I mean, look, don't tell me, tell them. Okay, tell the people that have their car in Fashion Valley floating away. Everybody knows. Don't park on the first floor of Fashion Valley Mall in the parking lot.
Ever.
Okay, when it's raining.
Even on a clear day.
Your car, once it starts raining, it floods. And if your car, I've seen cars floating out of there, just roll out. Park on the second floor, third floor, don't park on the first floor.
If it's raining, stay out of.
Yeah, you come out, your car be gone.
What about open parking?
Oh, probably fine. As far as I know, but the garage is, yeah. Right? Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
That is repetitive, right, those areas.
Huh?
I think those areas are repetitive, so you know, kind of.
Right, yeah,
where
exactly,
it's
yeah.
going.
And so you can plan for those things, in a better way. If you know, hey, you know, is it gonna happen? Yeah, it's a high probability, right? It's gonna happen. So I kind of plan for those events, right? And so, I got actually want to talk about this, right? And so as we're doing this, it says forecast is apply, but I really want to talk about the Markov analysis, right? And most folks are not necessarily acquainted with Markov. So Markov was just he's a mathematician. And we have this thing called the Markov analysis or Markov theorem that we use in AI and probability, right? And it really takes into consideration the function of time is what a Markov really talks about. Probability and time, right? And the way things happen, right? And what's the probability of this happening if A and B happen first? Okay, that kind of thing, right? And so when you're doing your workforce planning, right? And this is just an example, right? They're using a restaurant, right? And they look at, you know, kind of how they're looking at the transition of folks leaving the company, leaving the restaurant, right? Based on an annual basis, right? So you have your, you know, your retention levels, right? Your forecasted levels, and then you have, you know, kind of what you think 1 year from now is gonna be like, okay? And these are the raw scores, these are the raw numbers, right? So the way you read this is you go, server 80, close is 70 and 40. And these are all probabilities, okay? Whenever you do probability, it's always gonna come in a decimal. Sometimes we put it in percentage because it's easier for people to understand, 80%, 40%, 70%, but when you're really doing it, it's in decimals, okay? So they're saying that basically, at the end of the day, there's a 10% probability that, you know, servers are gonna leave. Okay, certain amount of servers are gonna leave, which is down here, they're saying 6 servers, right? There are 60, they're saying 6 of them are gonna leave, okay? And so they're forecasting out based on the time, right? That they're looking at a year, and also looking at the number of people that they have on staff, okay? And just saying, okay, what is our traditional kind of transition phase or process, okay? This is something that you probably see if you work at McDonald's, that they have down to a science. Because McDonald's has such a high turnover, right? On average, if I have a cook, a cashier, you know, the different aspects of, you know, McDonald's, most folks that go to McDonald's are not there long term. Okay, just to begin with. Right? They're there, it's a part-time job before they go do something else, or their kids, you know, teenagers, they have a gig and they make a little money, whatever the case may be. You are expecting them to leave, right? But what is the average time that they spend on the job, right? 3 years, 2 years, whatever the case may be. The guy, the gal that, you know, is in charge of, you know, it's a janitorial technician, or the person who's in charge of, you know, inventory, whatever the case may be. How long do they traditionally stay, right? As compared to some of the other positions, right? And then this is where you gotta look, okay, if I have a majority of my servers leaving, or the host, or whoever it is, right? Then I have to start to compare the pay. I have to start to compare the job duties, right? Because if I have a high probability of a majority of my hosts leaving after 3 years, but most of my servers are staying, why is that? Well, maybe because servers get tips, so that supplements their income, okay? Maybe because they have more flexibility in their scheduling, whereas I probably have one or two hosts, right? I don't have, most restaurants don't have a whole bunch of hosts. They have one or two, maybe three hosts, the people that do that, you know, are in the front, right? And so I look at these different factors to help me forecast who I'm gonna hire, fire, and retain down the road, right? And so you'll see that in a lot of the restaurants, if you ever get to that far, or up that far up, when they're doing their planning, as to, okay, what's it take first thing to run a McDonald's, right? How many people? I don't know, right? Whatever that number is, right? And then based on that, on average, servers stay 3 years, cashiers stay 2, right? And the other thing they can take into consideration is their age. You're either young or you're old. There's been no middle ground in McDonald's. I anecdotally, I've never seen it. I just see they're young, they're in their 20s, or they're in their 50s and 60s or 70s. Okay, that middle, you see them once in a while, but they're usually the manager owner, right? They're not necessarily the person that's taking your order or making the fries and that kind of thing, right? And so I not to start thinking about, okay, if this is my demographic that are coming to these jobs, right? What is it gonna take for me to keep them on longer, if that's what I want, right? And try to figure out what is the cycle, right, that they come in and go, right? And it's gonna be different from young folks to old folks, of course, right? Older folks probably have more flexibility in the schedule, and they're there because, you know what I mean, they have better to do, and they just want something to keep them occupied. Young folks are there because they want money, to do things, and they're thinking about college and moving to go travel, whatever the case may be, right? What different type of incentives can I provide to those different type of groups, right? Based on how I know they move, right? How do I know that they transition out of the positions?
Well, McDonald's does a big scholarship program
Yeah. Yeah,
with a lot of their youth.
Mhm.
They provide good scholarships,
right?
Yeah, these,
which they hope gets them back.
Yeah. What you say?
Chipotle, Panda Express, whatever, all of these, they pay for their college,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have,
10,000 a year. or something.
yeah, they have scholarship programs.
One of the things that, McDonald's has done well, in trying to, you know, groom their workforce and help them with their forecasting is, if you know, work at McDonald's, at some point, if you're there, I think 3 or 4 years, they start to talk to you about being an owner, right? And they start to groom you to start to run a McDonald's, right? They give you managerial position, even though you don't own it. You start to figure out the ins and outs. Then they say, okay, fine, you know what? We know you don't have the money, but you've been here, you're working. We're going to front you the money, okay? So of course we're gonna take, 60%, price the normal, 20%. We'll take 60, you get 40, right? But once you paid off that loan, it's your McDonald's
At 20%.
at 20%.
Because I think last I saw McDonald's, it was a $1.7 million buy-in, and you had to have $1 million of additional liquid assets to even, and you still have to go to McDonald's University.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's not optional.
No, but within a year, you're usually done.
McDonald's is a real estate company.
Yeah.
That happens to serve food.
Right, yeah.
And give away toys.
Right.
Even in Jordan,
Mhm.
McDonald's has to employ like disabilities people.
Yeah.
People with disabilities, they encourage disabled people to be
to be employed, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And they, I mean, the United States the same thing. I
They're
don't, they
under-
don't practice as well in ADA, they don't do it as well, maybe, I don't know. But that policy is probably for all the McDonald's, right? Like, we're advocates for ADA, we wanna make sure that people with disabilities don't get left out, and that they get hired, and maybe more push in Jordan and some other countries than here. I know here it's at the top of the list for McDonald's and most companies to hire people that are capable. Just, it all depends on, what's going on and who's hiring and that kind of thing, right? What you bring to the table, so. But the forecasting, it's not easy. It's a difficult task, and it takes a lot of, a lot of people, a lot of insight and foresight, and really some, out of the box thinking to start really building a good forecast, especially when it comes to the workforce, because you really don't have, you have about 70% of the information that you need, right? You have everything internally is great for the most part, and even then, you may not necessarily have a good lock on that because there may be an issue where, strikes, right? You just don't know, right? So let's just take the movie industry, for instance, Hollywood, they just went through the writer's strike, those kind of things, right? If you notice, none of the shows that you watch, there's no new seasons. Think about that.
A bunch are coming out in February.
Yeah, they're
but
coming
they
out in
should
February.
be.
They should have been a long time, right? There's no new seasons of most of the shows. They're just now coming back into, okay, new season. Because guess what? They were on strike. They ain't working, right? And so what that does for the companies, NBC, ABC, Netflix, all those companies, where they don't have anyone writing and they have not producing anything new, right? The subscription, Netflix is a little different. Netflix actually went up, but the rest of these companies, Disney Plus is suffering. They're struggling
All
really
of
hard.
this.
Yeah, all of Disney is, but Disney Plus is definitely struggling really hard right now, right? But all that plays into the forecasting about, okay, what shows are we gonna put our money into, right? Now that they're back to writing, what shows are we going to push? Which, what people we're going to employ? Or we need to ramp up the staff? Do we need to get all these people back to work, right? So we can start the production of all these shows and all these movies that we weren't doing because COVID, boom, strike, the next thing, right? And so all those things play a role in the forecasting and have an impact on us as consumers, right? Because at the end of the day, HR may not be directly concerned about the consumer, but they are concerned about the consumer, right? Because that's another metric that we use in HR and in organization in general, the customer satisfaction, right? Is the customer happy with what's going on? And in many times, it stems from an HR issue that the customer is not happy about, right? And it's not just a direct HR, it's more like I was dealing with Bob. Bob was not nice to me on the phone. And so HR, do we need to retrain our folks, right, on how to deal with conflict, how to de-escalate? Do we need to get, Bob some more training on, how he's supposed to act on the phone, right? Those all become HR issues, right, down the road. And that also becomes, hey, do we need to fire Bob? How many Bobs do we have in this company? Right? It's just a systemic problem. It's the issue that everybody's calling like, oh, I got a problem. It's like going to, again, a restaurant and the food is just bad, or the food's good, but the staff is bad. The wait staff is bad. I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant where the food is amazing, but the waitress is terrible. The waiter they're terrible. All right? All right, it's just bad. But it's not just them, it's the whole place. You notice like everybody's unhappy. Okay, then you gotta go, okay, is it, the manager not necessarily training the people right and understanding like, hey, we need to be like in and out or like Chick-fil-A. Okay? Everybody's been to Chick-fil-A one point. No. Who hasn't been to Chick-fil-A? But everybody has been to Chick-fil-A. Okay? So Chick-fil-A by far, unless it's somebody tells me different, has the best customer service out of all fast food places.
Yep.
Okay?
Why?
Because
Training.
Training, yeah.
Training
They,
expectations and
they're the
accountability.
most professional, it's professionalism coupled with accuracy, coupled with
Friendliness.
friendly, coupled with a lot of things that you get at other restaurants, but you don't get them all together. You get everything at
And you can
Chick-fil-A.
go to any I've been to Chick-fil-A's across the country.
It doesn't
and they're
matter
all
where
the
you
same.
go.
Doesn't
They're all the same.
They're all the same.
They're
They
all
actually,
nice.
Chick-fil-A financially, only being open 6 days a week, makes more money than the other fast food restaurants. Open 7 days a week.
They're professional. When you go to Chick-fil-A, it's yes, sir, no, sir. If something's wrong with your order, which is very rare, they don't argue with you.
They take care of you.
Just take care of it. We'll figure it out, okay? And so that's an organizational cultural thing. That's a workforce planning thing because again, if you come here and you work here, you're gonna do this training. And this is the way we plan or we forecast for how we move people up, right? And how well our company does, right?
And they are rarely, if ever, understaffed.
No, they're never understaffed. There's no such thing as Chick-fil-A. Right? They got people outside, inside, everywhere. The lines are wrapping around the corner.
I think they have staff for everything, for deliveries, for table service, for, hosting.
Very
for
specialized, very,
Yeah.
very unique.
Orders.
All right, any questions? Comments, complaints? Okay, good. Okay. Not care. All right, I haven't graded anything yet. I will get to it at some point. This is I have finals this week myself, taking a course.
Hopefully you did well.
Yeah, I think I'll be all right. I got a project I'm working on, so I will get to it, probably tomorrow or Thursday. I'll get your grading done. I'm not anticipating the final draft, title, stuff like that. Don't know about that. As long as you submitted it, you'll be fine. Research discussion, I will get to that and give it a little more in-depth, scrutiny, and then, to make sure you get your LE in or your research discussion in on time. And take your quiz and then next week is what's due next week?
So
Or this week?
this week it's the kind of probably next step of the paper.
Yeah, is that the lit, no.
Under justification.
Is
That's
it vacation?
Identification.
Okay, yeah, say, don't get too deep into that, just tell me, hey,
Quick justification.
Yeah.
You can send that in the instruction.
yeah, just quick, no,
And
don't,
the 3 questions that answer on the research discussion.
yeah.
And then the quiz.
On the research discussion for this week, it's 3 questions, a couple, 100 words here, 100 words here, 100 words, 'cause, it's critical to point out, you can get very deep in each question. Each question could be its own 800 words. Just give me your own paragraph in each, it kind of gets to the point, all right, you're good to go. Don't forget to cite. All right, and then we should be good to go. Any questions? No? All right, I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
Fun drive back home.
Yeah.
You guys Sunday night on Zoom.
Have a good one.
Yes, well, good to meet you in person. I'll never see you.
Where my email address?
So it's the school one. Yeah, I'll just look it up to the school one.
All right.
We'll do that Sunday Zoom and then we'll do the Wednesday to finalize. it.
You tell your husband, I'll call him. Okay? Yeah.
I'm organized. That's one
Hello,
thing that
Professor.
Zoom, we're done. See you
I have
guys.
a question.
We're done.
For the research discussion too, are we supposed to create the groups which we were assigned, or we can do all on our own groups
So which one?
for research discussion too, which we submitted?
You said resubmitted.
which we submitted.
Week two.
Yeah, that was groups, yeah.
So we did a separate group of 3 individuals. Is that okay? We just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
As long as you're in a group.
No individual group? Sorry, I didn't get it.
Yeah, as long as you were in a group, yeah, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And in that group, we were supposed to do, means if we have our own companies, we were able to put our own company's HR basic information, or it should be 3 person with working on the same company.
No, I'm pretty sure each one of you guys had your own take on it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so whatever you submitted, I'll take a look at it,
Uh-huh.
because I'm okay with either one, either way, but
Perfect.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we did it actually individual company, and then we were talking, and then our classmate told me like it was supposed to be only one company. So and that's why we okay, maybe we
Okay,
should.
no, that's fine, that's fine. I'll take a look at it, but as long as you submitted it, and if it's 3 different companies, that's okay. If it's one, that's okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we
Okay.
just wanted to make sure because we confirmed and it was like too late. We have already submitted, so we were not
Yeah,
able to
no,
change.
that's okay, that's all right. As long as you did something and it's a good product, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, man.
Good night.
Yeah.
What's the process of returning laptop?
You said laptop?
I pick a laptop from school, from this woman, and nobody's there now, and I need to return it. I
Oh,
don't
yeah, no, you won't be able to get that till tomorrow. See if this works.
I'm not
I
going
don't
to
know
come
if
here
that will work.
next week. Well,
See if that works.
yeah,
What do you need the pen for?
I want to sign out for the laptop I picked.
Oh, is there not a pen there? There should be a pen there.
No, no. How to return it is